Well, good morning. We'll start this conference quickly here. Before we introduce what had happened over the last 24 hours, I'd like to introduce people who've been involved in this since yesterday, and that's Gabe Guerrero. He's the Great Lakes Task Force Deputy Commander. Southern Indiana U.S. Marshal Dan McClan. Steve Lockyer, our Coroner. Chief Billy Boland, Assistant Chief Phil Smith, and ISP Justin Bean, who's part of our task force. As everybody knows, we're here today because we were seeking out this particular fugitive from Alabama who had been in on a capital murder offense and had been in Evansville for approximately 1 week. We were fortunate to have cooperation from law enforcement from Alabama, Mississippi, our U.S. Marshal Task Force, which is comprised of members of the Sheriff's Office, the Indiana State Police, and the Evansville Police Department, and the U.S. Marshal Service. Because of all the resources, we received a lot of tips. We got some good surveillance videos that showed a pickup truck that had been left at a car wash, and then a subsequent vehicle that they took and escaped in from the car wash, which was a Cadillac. We recently found out that they'd been staying at a hotel down the road here. It used to be a Motel 6, and now I think it's changed names, and they've had a 14-day stay there. We were fortunate that during our investigation yesterday, an Evansville police officer who was just doing his good diligence of patrolling and being smart noticed the vehicle in the parking lot of the hotel and notified us immediately. So the task force members got together, they drove down there, set up surveillance on the hotel. Soon thereafter, the two suspects exited the hotel and fled out of the hotel parking lot northbound on U.S. Highway 41, turned in at an industry known as Anchor here in Evansville. They went through the parking lot, went through a grass field. The members of the U.S. Task Force basically rammed the vehicle and pushed it into a ditch. And we later found out, had they not done that, the fugitive was going to engage in a shootout with law enforcement. So by our quick thinking and our actions, sometimes people may call that unnecessary action, but that action may have saved many of my deputies and fellow law enforcement officers' lives. And that's why I represent the Sheriff's Office. I want to bring my people home, and I don't care about the fugitives' lives if it protects my people's lives. And here I commend them for a job well done. They knew they were going up against a dangerous felon, a murderer, and we have photos of the weapons that were located in the vehicle. There were at least 4 handguns, semi-automatics, 9mm, and this is known as an AR-15, which shoots a .223 caliber round. So any one of these weapons could have been used to ambush our officers while they were attempting to capture a murder suspect. So I commend them for the quick and aggressive action. It probably saved a lot of chaos by doing quick action there. Once the vehicle crashed, the female suspect shot herself. The male suspect gave up when we approached the vehicle. They were both taken out of the vehicle. Life-saving measures was attempted on the female, but she suffered a grave injury and subsequently died at the hospital last night. We interviewed the suspect for quite some time. I don't want to get into all the details of that because some of that may be used against him, but we have him presently in our Vanderburgh County Jail. He signed a waiver of extradition to go back to Alabama. I've notified the sheriff there, and they are going to make arrangements to pick the suspect up and return him to the state of Alabama. Due to safety and security measures, we won't be divulging that to you. It won't be a public spectacle. When he leaves, he'll go out a hidden exit, and it won't be for public display. So we won't divulge the date and time when the Alabama authorities take the prisoner back to Alabama. Once again, I can't shout out enough praise to all the law enforcement here in our community for the hard work that they do. The task force, I was asked by a member of the media this morning if this was like an odd occurrence, and it's certainly not an odd occurrence. We arrest dangerous felon subjects every single week. We've been involved in multiple shootings in this community. We've shot people. We've been shot at. So this is law enforcement. This is today's law enforcement. It's a very dangerous occupation. So I hope the public realizes what we do is dangerous, and we have to take action to protect ourselves so each and every one of these fine men and women go home to their family and their loved ones, and we don't let the criminal win the war. So I appreciate you being here. That pretty well wraps up what I have to say. We have multiple members here. If anybody wants to add to what I said, you're welcome to do that. Or if anybody has questions they want to ask off this, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Two questions, Sheriff. First of all, we know that Vicky White had $90,000 in cash with her. Have you located that money?
Yeah, we got a photo. They had about $29,000 left over. Here's a picture of the money that was left in the vehicle that we counted last night after we inventoried the vehicle.
And my second question, sir. James, the owner of, or the manager of the car wash who first called the police about the truck, will he be receiving the $25,000 reward?
Now, I don't know anything about the reward money, personally.
Is there anyone here who can address that? Because it seems like he sort of solved it.
Yeah, and I don't know, but that would be something that we'll deal with. Right now, that's not on our radar.
How did they get the F-150 and the Cadillac?
What's that?
How did they get the F-150 and the Cadillac?
They purchased the F-150 and drove it here. And where they got the Cadillac, I'm not sure at this moment.
Do you have any idea what they were doing here for?
Well, I think he said that he was just trying to find a place to hide out and lay low. And they thought, they'd driven long enough that they wanted to stop for a while, get their bearings straight, and then figure out their next place to travel.
Do you get any indication that they were visiting anyone potentially at the
No, we don't believe they have any relatives, friends, or acquaintances in Evansville, Vanderburgh County.
Was there any dash or body camera video yesterday?
There may be some dash or body camera video. We haven't got that far yet for examining and releasing that.
What about surveillance from the motel?
And there may be, but like I said, that's a lot further into our investigation.
Sheriff, can you please speak to James Vincent, who called apparently on Tuesday to report not only the truck but also the scene images of Vicky White with tattoos on his arm, and was told there's nothing we can do right now. It's not reported as a stolen vehicle. Those were his words. Why did it take so long to get a response?
Okay. Well, here, I'll let the police chief answer that.
So I'll back up just a little bit. On May 2nd, we had an officer on the evening of May 2nd proactively driving through lots, and he was running plates just to see if they were stolen. He actually was the first one to run this plate on the evening of May 2nd, and it didn't come back stolen, didn't return anything. On May 4th, we got the call to the car wash, and the first officer went out, and the caller was not on scene when the officer was there. We do have body camera footage of the officer running the plate, looking in the car. He ran the VIN number, and then he left because it was an abandoned vehicle that we can't tow that. It would have to be 48 hours at the owner's request of a place before we can tow it off private property. But the owner of a residence can choose to have it towed on their own. He called back a couple hours later and had not seen the officer on scene, so we sent another officer back out, met with him. The second officer that went out also ran the info and explained the process to him, that we would have to wait 48 hours before we could tow it, but if he wanted to tow it on his own, he could. And that's when they towed the vehicle, was on May 4th after that second run. From everything we've seen, there was no mention that this was connected to Alabama. On the 911 gives hope, or 911 audio, there was no mention that it was connected to Alabama. So at that point last week, there was no tie at all to this being involved with anything out of state. There was no mention to it being connected with them. So it was just an abandoned vehicle for us at that point.
Why he stopped at the car wash?
No, There was no reason. He just happened to pull in there. I think he's going to try to ditch the vehicle there.
Clarify the 14-day stay. They were only gone for about 11 days. You said a 14.
That he had paid for 14 days to stay at the hotel. What's that? Yes, yes. Uh-huh. Say that again? No, they said they were just trying to contemplate where they could go and kind of be discreetly away from the public's eye. Wigs, they had multiple wigs.
Sheriff, presumably he was in this area since the day, or in this area presumably since May 3rd, almost a week. What other interactions have you been able to trace? If they were here that long, surely there were other businesses or whatever that they would have.
Well, to that point, just like yesterday, there's hundreds of tips that come in. Someone claims they've seen the suspects, but we've had people claim they saw them in Richmond, Indiana, and we just go through every single tip. But from my standpoint, we've got the case solved. We've got a person deceased, and we have another person in custody headed back to Alabama. That's my concern.
Hey, Sheriff, when you heard that when he was getting pulled when he was coming out of the car, he said, "My wife is dead and I didn't do it." Do we know if that's true, and were they married?
They were not married. They shared the same last name. And our preliminary investigation, we don't believe he shot her. But once the coroner examines the body through a pathology, he can make a determination of that.
Sheriff, how do you know that he was aiming Casey White to have some sort of violent competition? Because obviously you showed that arsenal of weapons inside the car. Did he express in your interviews with Casey any desire to do that?
Yes. He said that he was probably going to have a shootout at the stake of both of them losing their lives.
Sheriff, did they have a plan? Were they trying to get somewhere? Obviously he wanted to escape.
Their plan was pretty faulty. They're criminals. Their plan was faulty, and it failed. Thank God. Well, no. And once again, what was going through her mind, I have no idea.
Sheriff, did he express how long that relationship has gone on between the two?
And that's under our investigation. We're not going to divulge that right now.
Sheriff, did he express any remorse for her death?
No.
Did you get the sense they were actually doing this together? He was not forcing her in any way.
Right. No, he was not forcing her. It was a mutual relationship.
Sheriff, can you clarify where she shot herself?
Well, we'll let the coroner talk about that after the pathology this afternoon.
When is that coroner's report expected?
Well, we think this afternoon.
Well, we're going to initiate this.
Yeah. The autopsy will be conducted this afternoon, and they'll put a report out when they're ready.
Hey, Sheriff, if you don't know how they got in Cadillac, how did you guys know it's moving for Cadillac?
No, we saw the Cadillac in surveillance video at the time they ditched the pickup truck, and then they left in the Cadillac. We're not going to charge him here. He has much more serious charges in Alabama, and we want to get him down there and let them take care of that.
Were any drugs found, Sheriff?
We haven't found any drugs of any significance.
Sheriff, you run a jail. How do you feel that somebody that works in a jail, of course not in a jail, but somebody that works in a jail did this?
Well, it's certainly an unpleasant thought, and it's kind of shocking that somebody would do that. But remember, they're human beings, that they have their own minds, and for whatever reason, that they've developed some type of relationship, and so it's startling. But, you know, they're humans, make mistakes.
Sheriff, how many law enforcement vehicles were damaged?
Maybe 3 at most. And that's a small price to pay to stop a murderer. Just one had a slight head injury from banging his head inside the vehicle, but he's okay now. What's that?
Where did she get the gun that she used?
Well, I have no idea. If we should have had one from our agency, they could have stolen some, they could have bought some, and that's where we're got to piece all together. If you want to look, here's the pictures of the vehicle. Here's his and hers vehicle here. And this was a ditch that really nobody knew, including the suspects. But this ditch actually helped us in the pursuit. because as they forcibly rammed the vehicle, it turned over on its side, and that disrupted his plan to try to have a shootout with law enforcement. And he even made that statement.
I want to ask you, this has been a whirlwind couple of days for local law enforcement here in Evansville. I know things like this don't happen very often.
Right.
Can you speak to that, just kind of what this was like for your department as well as maybe here in Evansville, the police department,
Right.
collaboration between everyone here?
Well, you remember, in law enforcement, you can be a town like in Posey County where a deputy was shot in the head. You can be in New York City. You can be in Evansville, Indiana. Crime's everywhere. Unexpected crime, violent crime is everywhere. So we never go to work thinking we're not going to encounter an unusual or serious situation. Like I said, our task force members routinely go out and arrest violent felons, murderers, and they get shot at, and they get attacked, and they get resisted. We get involved in pursuits. We're in a very dangerous occupation. And Evansville, Indiana is a fairly large community. I think people forget that. We're 180,000 people, and we're a hub of a very large demographic area, so we serve a population base of over 350,000 people. And it's conducive for criminal activity. And we have to prepare for that every single day.
Sheriff, do you know anything about the provenance of any of those weapons? Is it possible that any of them were part of her service as a corrections officer?
It could be, but right now we will continue our investigation, but that's the least of my worries at this time. But we will try to find an origin for each and every one of these weapons.
And during his cooperative interview last night, did he say anything along the lines of who planned this and how much planning?
Yeah, but I'm not going to get into the interview with the detectives.
What about the money? Where did the money come from? Do we know that?
Well, she supposedly maybe sold a home before she left town and got a large sum of money from that.
Was there any negotiation before she shot herself?
Was there what?
Any negotiation? Did you have any communication before she shot herself?
I think she may have had a little bit of communication with our dispatch, possibly. I wasn't aware of it 100%, but I think she may have been talking to our dispatch.
Is that a police-ordered issue taser there in that photo?
That's from her duty belt. This is her duty belt she wore as a confinement officer, correction officer in her home state of Alabama. She just took that with her when she left.
Were those in the hotel room or the car? The guns?
In the car? In the car. They were in the vehicle.
Hey, Sheriff, after you guys seen the initial video at the car wash, what was the indication? How did you guys figure out that they were still maybe in here?
Well, it was a long, drawn-out process, like the police chief said. It's just bits and pieces of information kept coming in and tying things together, and it wasn't till over the weekend where it looked like more of a possibility that they had been here for sure. And once again, after 6 days, it was just hard to believe they were here. I wouldn't think somebody on the run would stay in a community like Evansville for 6 days. But we brought the resources in and continued our investigation based on the information we had.
Sheriff, following
As
up
far
on
as in
that.
the jail right now, is he being held in the general population or?
No, he's just in a holding area.
Now, they were at the hotel for quite a long time. Is there any indication at all that maybe the clerk or someone who works there knew it was them? I mean, this is a nationwide manhunt. Could they possibly be threatened?
Well, I mean, we don't have any reason to believe that right now. But once again, we're less than 24 hours in this investigation. We have a lot more of the puzzle put together. So
How many days was it for maintenance at the hotel?
just yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. A very short window of time.
Casey White injured yesterday?
He had a couple bumps and bruises from the crash.
Sheriff, can you confirm that there's a Facebook video that was circulating that had the side angle of the arrest actually taking place? Can you confirm that it was Casey White in that video?
I haven't seen the video, but Casey White was at the scene, so you got that for sure.
Also, can you get JPEGs of those posters so we can actually have a digital version of that when you're showing us?
Possibly, yeah.
Sheriff, what was the approximate amount of time after the crash that Vicky shot herself?
I think it was almost instantaneously. Before our deputies and task force members got to the vehicle, she had shot herself.
I know you said it used to be a Motel 6. Can you say the actual name of the hotel?
Yeah, I got it written down here. See? Motel 41. Yes, probably less than a mile south of here. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. To the left. I'm sorry.
Was that F-150 pre-purchase
She had bought that vehicle. Yes.
in Tennessee or Alabama?
I don't know where she may have bought it in the state of Tennessee. I'm not sure.
Or did she purchase it ahead of the escape?
No, I think after.
Sorry, the marshal said that car was actually purchased by Casey White for $6,000 in Tennessee, the same day they escaped. Is
No.
that not accurate?
That's probably accurate. Yeah.
Sheriff, can we see your phone shot of Casey one more time?
Everybody okay with that? And I know you've asked a lot of questions, and as the sheriff, I think they're good media-related questions, but we're trying to take dangerous people off the street, and so a lot of the where they bought the car and where they did this and that is a minor concern versus us getting them off the street and making our community safe. Now, this investigation will go on maybe for weeks, and we will uncover things in the future that we don't have at this time. But like you said, we're less than 24 hours from the time that we were involved in a pursuit and a serious crash and somebody losing their life.
Sheriff, which agencies are involved in the investigation at this point?
Several. We have the United States Marshal, the Indiana State Police, the Evansville Police Department, the Vanderburgh County Sheriff's Office, many members of law enforcement from Alabama, Mississippi, some members of the FBI, and probably agencies in between. So there's plenty of agencies involved.
Sheriff, is someone in law enforcement or any of the people behind you who are involved in law enforcement, in your mind, what about your assistance, 17-year veteran of the corrections facility, how did that assist? How did that help this take so long?
I'm not understanding your question.
As someone involved in law enforcement, Vicky White, it's a 17-year-long
Yeah.
corrections officer. Presumably that had something to do with why it took so long, over a week, 11 days, for this to come to an end. I'm asking, with her expertise, have contributed and how?
No, that has absolutely no merit to what went on. Zero.
Sheriff, I'm sorry. The photos that you released today, are they going to be posted on your Facebook page or?
We'll have photos available for media later, yes. Does anybody else need comment? Anybody have anything you want to say? Or anybody have any questions of the other law enforcement leaders here? No, not to see the vehicle in person, no. What's that? I don't know if we do. If we do, we can maybe release that. That's not a big deal. It's a wig, a standard wig. This? Oh yeah, sure. You guys want to take those over there?
Sheriff, I know it's a weird question. Was it a black wig, long, short? What was she wearing?
I think there was multiple wigs, kind of maybe reddish and blonde. Yeah, you wouldn't look good in it. Well, we thank you. If anybody needs any other questions from anybody, everybody will be mingling around for a while. And once again, keep in mind, less than 24 hours, there's a lot of questions that won't be answered until we have a much deeper investigation, get all of our notes and material together, and we also have privileged information that we can't share. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, sir. You all right? we're going to get so what we'll do, we'll get that. We'll probably release that to our website.